No wind, no whisper of leaves, only the dry earth trembling under the heavy steps of an ancient creature. A remnant from an age long before humans ever walked the planet. It doesn't need to roar. It doesn't need to show off. A single flick of its tongue across the air is enough to make the entire forest pause, as if every other living thing knows it's standing before the last true ruler of the Indonesian islands. This is the Komodo dragon, a cold-blooded emblem of primordial power, fast as a leopard, silent as night, and armed with a bite so lethal, even time seems wary of it. But today, we're not here to challenge it. We're here to observe, to understand, and to witness how people work to preserve the fragile boundary between human life and untamed instinct. And you're watching Famigo Farm, where we don't just document nature, we tell real stories, stories of the people who live alongside one of the final predators of the dinosaur age. But to grasp its true power, we have to get closer. The moment a group of Komodo dragons circles a mother buffalo and her calf is just a small glimpse of the countless dangers locals face every single day. And if you want to understand why this reptile is considered a true nightmare, you have to look directly at the primal traits that shaped it. A Komodo dragon moves quietly, slowly, almost disappearing into the gray earth as it lies in ambush. One small motion, one careless footstep, and it can spring up with explosive power, leaving a human no time to react. These are nature's heavy-built hunting machines, over 3 meters long, weighing up to 90 kilos. They may move slowly, but in the decisive moment, they unleash a burst of speed. A single bite isn't just force. It's a combination of saw-edged teeth and saliva loaded with venom and dangerous bacteria, turning even a small wound into a life-threatening injury as minutes pass. Along the coastline, Komodos hunt differently than they do in the forest. When they spot fish close to shore, they stand perfectly still for minutes, waiting for the exact moment to strike. Then, with no warning, the Komodo snaps its head down into the water and clamps onto its prey with remarkable accuracy. It's not rage, it's a reflex honed over millions of years. What makes them even more dangerous is the way they can approach people silently. There have been cases where a Komodo suddenly charged toward workers in a village simply because its path was blocked. No one was hurt, and there was no prolonged confrontation. But that moment alone showed how little chance a person has to outrun or react when standing too close. For livestock, the risk is even clearer. Komodos often target young goats. They're less aware, slower, and easier to catch. Just one short chase is enough to send the whole herd into panic, forcing villagers to rush out and drive the Komodo back into the forest before things get out of control. None of this is exaggerated. There's no gore, no dramatization. This is simply how the Komodo dragon survives in the wild, through patience, speed, and ancient predatory instincts left untouched since prehistoric times. And it's exactly these traits that make Komodos a real threat to communities living next to the forest. Not because they deliberately seek to attack people, but because the boundaries between human habitat and theirs grow closer each year. And as that distance shrinks, the risks rise, making unexpected encounters impossible to avoid. We understand the creature, but understanding alone isn't enough. Out in the field, every piece of knowledge has to be proven, where strategy, coordination, and real-world experience determine success or failure. In Indonesia, people have lived alongside Komodo dragons for centuries. They know exactly where these reptiles move, their familiar travel paths, the watering spots they visit every day, and the moments they slip out of the brush to begin their search for food. Drawing from generations of experience, locals know how to prepare bait that Komodos can't resist. Cuts of meat and strong-smelling organs, scents that carry even farther in the heat, become natural signals that attract Komodos from a distance. Place them in the right wind direction, Let the scent drift along the right path, and the dragon will almost certainly step into the controlled zone. This bait keeps the animal still just long enough for the handling team to plan a safe approach. And when the Komodo finally moves into the baited area, that's when the most critical phase begins. Every eye locks onto it, tracking every tiny motion. A tilt of the head, a slower step. Any shift can unravel the entire operation. If it senses danger or changes course, the team has to start from the beginning. When the animal reaches a distance that's no longer safe, the decision must be made in an instant. The anesthetic marksman raises his rifle, resets his aim under the blinding heat radiating off the ground. He has to wait for the exact moment the Komodo lowers its head to inspect the bait, the only moment when the target stays still long enough for a precise shot. There's no room for hesitation, no second chances. When the target stabilizes, the trigger is pulled. A clean, sharp thump breaks the silence. The dart leaves the barrel, slicing through the hot air and striking a spot chosen specifically based on the Komodo's anatomy. The animal jolts, takes a few instinctive steps back, then begins to slow. Its breathing shifts, muscles growing heavier, until its entire body loses the ability to move. No chaos, no unnecessary confrontation, just a single precise shot, delivered at the right moment to temporarily subdue a dangerous predator and prevent it from wandering any closer to the village, a measure that protects both people and the Komodo itself before the boundary between their worlds becomes too thin to preserve.
Ayo yang gede dulu bang. Mantap, Bang Beng, jos. Satunya lagi.
During the dry season, when Komodo encounters are most likely, the preparation process always begins with the smallest details. Gear, position, wind direction, every element has to align perfectly. But the most critical factor of all is the bait, the key to drawing a Komodo out of hiding. Using knowledge passed down through generations, locals choose strong scented cuts of meat and organs which can carry their smell across long distances in Indonesia's scorching heat. This is the kind of bait a Komodo can hardly resist once it catches the scent. Before setting it down, the team carefully checks the wind direction and selects an open spot where the scent can drift along the exact path the Komodo usually travels. No mechanical traps, no complicated equipment, just the natural pull of scent, holding the Komodo in place long enough for the team to maintain control. Once the bait is positioned correctly, the team moves on to the next crucial step, finding cover. They move slowly, minimizing any sound that could alert the Komodo. The shooter chooses a clear, elevated vantage point, somewhere he can see the entire baited area while still being concealed by trees and the natural terrain. The rifle is stabilized, ready to track the Komodo if it approaches from an unexpected angle. The rest of the team spreads out into their pre-planned formation. One monitors wind shifts, another watches the trails the Komodo might use, and another maintains communication to signal the first sign of movement. Everyone stays low, beneath the line of direct sunlight, to avoid being spotted. When everything is finally in place, only absolute silence remains, and the wait for the moment when the Komodo emerges from the dry, sun-scorched brush in the distance.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Coba saya.
In Komodo control missions, choosing the right equipment is always the top priority. Not to create power, but to guarantee precision and absolute safety in an environment where mistakes simply cannot happen. Here, the team uses the BMW Slug 13GR, a firearm designed for high stability, reduced recoil, and a straight, reliable trajectory even under the harsh heat and strong winds of the Indonesian islands. Its balanced weight allows the shooter to hold the barrel steady for long periods without fatigue, an essential advantage when waiting for a Komodo to emerge from the dry brush. Paired with the rifle is a standard optic, bright and clear enough to track the animal's movements at close range. When a Komodo approaches head-on or moves around the bait, the distance is short, making binoculars unnecessary. In those moments, maintaining a stable stance, controlling breathing, and keeping a steady view through the scope are all the shooter needs. But when a Komodo moves along the outer perimeter or appears from open ground farther away, binoculars become a crucial tool. They allow the team to spot movement earlier, identify the direction of approach, and give the marksman enough time to prepare the tranquilizer shot. Whether it's the firearm or the observation tools, each piece of equipment serves a specific purpose. And when used correctly, they create the perfect balance of accuracy, safety, and efficiency, the exact spirit of a mission designed to control an ancient predator responsibly. All of this gear is chosen not for show, but for navigating unpredictable dry forests and narrow game trails. Because in a place where shrubs can hide anything and movements in shallow water last only seconds, the stability of the equipment and strict adherence to local laws is the boundary that allows humans to step in responsibly and safely. Komodo dragon control operations in Indonesia are not free-range hunts. They're tightly regulated procedures overseen by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, where every intervention requires a clear, time-limited permit. The number of permits issued each year is strictly capped, typically between 60 and 120, depending on population assessments and environmental conditions. This ensures that every interaction with a Komodo remains within conservation guidelines. A standard response team consists of 4 to 5 members, each with a specific role: a tranquilizer shooter, an observer, a local guide, and a safety officer. Every mission must be reported in detail within 24 hours, documenting the encounter, the location, the Komodo's behavior, and the reason for intervention, to maintain transparency and track population health. Even field tactics follow strict regulations. Bait must be placed far from residential areas, wind direction must be calculated correctly, and all hiding positions and approach routes must be predetermined to minimize risks. The use of equipment, firearms, and tranquilizers must comply with dosage guidelines and safety standards set by conservation authorities. These procedures make one principle unmistakably clear: this is not recreational hunting. It's a controlled conservation mission, prioritizing human safety while also safeguarding the survival of this ancient reptile species. To capture moments like that, every field condition has to line up perfectly. In Indonesia, Komodo monitoring and control efforts usually peak during the dry season, from April to October. This is when the intense heat and drop in humidity crack the ground, shrink water sources, and force Komodos to travel farther, exposing them more often along their usual routes. They show up in high numbers in dry forests, open grasslands, and rocky hillsides, places where their tracks are easier to spot and bait works most effectively. Hot winds help carry the scent of meat over long distances, drawing Komodos in and making safe tracking and intervention more feasible. It's also the breeding season, when Komodos are more active, unpredictable, and frequently leave their natural hiding spots. Their movement increases sharply, and encounters near residential areas become more common, requiring control teams to stay constantly alert. The interplay of climate, terrain, and predatory instinct creates a unique window of time, one in which any encounter, planned or accidental, can happen at any moment. Living in Indonesia teaches one simple truth: nature isn't something to fight. It's something we learn to live with. Komodo dragons aren't enemies. They're just following instinct. But when those instincts come close to people, we have a responsibility: protect our families, our animals, and the species itself. Control isn't about killing. It's about balance, safety, and conservation. For people in rural America or Indonesia, this idea is familiar. Protecting communities and protecting nature always go hand in hand. If you believe in that, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and like to follow more responsible wildlife stories from Famigo Farm.